Hello and welcome, Simon's Trading Channel. Time for my daily Bitcoin price action analysis. Happy Monday to you, start of a new week. And yes, I got a weekly chart up here with Bitstamp, and I'll come on to where there's a Bollinger Band on there in but a moment. I hope you're all well and have enjoyed the start of your week, this marvelous Monday. And just before I jump straight into the price action, I just want to remind you this isn't financial advice. Right. So, Bollinger Band on the weekly, I hear you say. Why? Why, Simon? What are you doing? Well, for a couple of reasons, really. I mean, Bollinger Bands are very well known, created by John Bollinger, a well-known trader in the 1980s. And yeah, I mean, it's alive and well and as useful as it's always been. And I'm not going to go into the exact calculation because I don't really know it, but the midpoint is just a 20 SMA, 20 simple moving average, and then you get standard deviations of the data sets for each of the candles above and below the 20 SMA. So effectively what that means, and this isn't going to turn into a teaching videos because I don't really do them at the moment, but what it generally means is you get areas where the Bollinger Bands are close together and areas where the Bollinger Bands are far apart. And that simply conveys the degree of volatility within the market. So when the Bollinger Bands are narrow, low volatility. You can see that in those weekly candles that occurred there, which were all indecision candles with very small bodies to the candles. And you only got a bit of increase in the volatility on this weekly closure here, which closed above the top of the Bollinger Band. And the key here is that when that volatility started to increase, so when the width of the Bollinger Bands increased, the price was above the midline. So the price relative to the midline, the 20 SMA, when volatility increases, gives you a steer on the then developing direction and trend for the commodity, whatever you're looking at. In my case, every day so far, Bitcoin. I can talk about whatever charts you would like me to talk about, but at the moment, just focusing on Bitcoin. Because it's so marvelous. Anyway, and it's by definition Bitcoin's volatility that makes it attractive to traders. So so narrow Bollinger Bands, low volatility. When the Bollinger Bands start to increase in width, you look to see where the price is relative to the midpoint, and that can give you a steer. This is not financial advice on the overall direction of the price action. Okay, so excuse me. Why have I brought it up now? Well, it just seemed like an opportune moment with another weekly closure here on Bybit. That's number 7 within the range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and then today has just been a bit of selling and then buying pressure later on in the day. So clearly that's a weekly candle, but because there's only been one day this week, you can kind of look at it as a daily candle. Anyway, the point of this is you can see as of now, you can see this more accurately if you use a BBWP because it gives you a percentage of the Bollinger Band widths, but you can just see it with your eyes. So the Bollinger Band width on the weekly started to contract on, using my eyes, it started to properly contract on this week here, which was the beginning of April. So with using my eyes to see the Bollinger Bands was when the volatility started to cool off on the weekly. Okay, remember what I said about the midpoint, the 20 SMA gives you really good steer on the direction of price action in the future. And you can see there's still, this is on Bitstamp, but you can look at it on Bybit, whatever. The price action is still well above the 20 SMA on the weekly, which on this exchange, Bitstamp's coming in at 55,500, right? That'll be different on different exchanges. So while the price is still above the midpoint, with declining volatility, what that means is when the volatility then starts to expand, if the price is still above the midpoint, the 20 SMA, more likely to have volatility expansion and then price action towards the upside. The counter is true. So if, and this moving average is clearly going to be coming up. So as each week closes, this moving average will come up. It sort of catches up with the price, just like, here. The 20 SMA wasn't very far away from the wick of that candle. And so the more weeks that go by, the higher up the 20 SMA gets. But for more upside, you need Bitcoin to remain above it. But I am suspicious that the 20 SMA, maybe after this week's closure or the following one, will get up to around 59,000, 60,000 in the next couple of weeks. And if Bitcoin if volatility continues to cool down or cool off, so the Bollinger Bands continue to compress, and the moving average inevitably comes up to around 60,000, that's when Bitcoin has some work to do, if you like, because if it starts to close below the 20 SMA, and then you get increased volatility by expansion of the Bollinger Bands, more likely to be to the downside. So I don't think that's the likely thing to happen. I think it's more likely that the price action remains above the 20 SMA. Bollinger Bands narrow down a bit, declining volatility for X number more of weeks, maybe even just this week, but X number of weeks from here. But the price stays above the 20 SMA, and then when volatility expansion occurs, it's already above the midline, the 20 SMA, and therefore upside is more likely. Oh my God, why did that take 7.5 minutes? And just to explain it in more visual terms, which I probably should have done in the first place, so you see here, Bollinger Bands closing in from expanding and closing in from about here. The volatility is cooling off. At this point, though, there was no expansion of the Bollinger Bands when the price was below the SMA. And then after this bullish candle closure, the price action is now back above the SMA. So then you're looking for, when volatility comes, it's above the midpoint. So that's a signal to some people, to me, maybe some people as well, that with that volatility to the upside will come, with that increased volatility will deliver price action to the upside because it remains above the 20 SMA. So you see that there. Let's get a counter. So a counter to that would be on the last bear market. So volatility was cooling off here. You can see the Bollinger Bands contracting here compared to, say, there. And as the Bollinger Bands were contracting, as the volatility was cooling down, the price action was below the 20 SMA. So then when volatility expanded again with widening of the Bollinger Bands, more likely for price to come down. And then the same here, so contracting Bollinger Bands, contracting to about there. Price is below the 20 SMA, so when volatility expands, more likely for more downside. I think you see my point. I don't need to go all the way back through Bitstamp's history, right? It doesn't always work out, but most of the time it does. Therefore, I'll come on to Bybit. And the 20 SMA on the weekly is at, just call it 56,000. All right, so that is a kind of like safety buffer for upside on a weekly time frame. All right, I still think more likely 59,000, 60,000, but as you can see, this is coming up to meet the bottom of the range. And if Bitcoin does stay within this range for another couple of weeks, it's likely to get very close, and that can go one way or the other. But I've still got an upside bias until you get weekly closures back below the 20 SMA. That's 10 minutes. I haven't talked about any of the other time frames. I've got these 2 trend lines on. So super quick then, I'll just come down to the 4 hour. It's been a very waffly video, I apologise for that. But next time I refer to the Bollinger Bands, I'm obviously not going to be blabbing on about how they work and who invented them and blah blah blah. So yeah, I've got kind of 2 trend lines on here, and this one will be negated with any closures back below 61.5, and this one will be negated, so think about that, with closures above 67,000, which is also the midpoint of the range. It's Bitcoin has snuck down under my 62.5 area, but it quite quickly reclaimed it again. So I think downside is still has the bears on the lower time frame still have the upper hand, but I think a range play is still in order while Bitcoin is above this here low. This here low. So these, well, here basically, but all these wicks are now coming in at around 60,000. So 60,000 no-go zone, or 59,000 no-go zone for Bitcoin, and a real no-go zone on the weekly at the moment, 56,000. But anyway, that'll do. It's a very long video. I apologise for that. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little bit different talking about Bollinger Bands. If you have enjoyed it, then please like and subscribe. And if you didn't enjoy that, then don't come back tomorrow, because I'll be doing it all again for Tuesday. Okay, take care. Enjoy what's left of your Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow.